Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. JC here with another video on Action Taimanin. Today I'm gonna share with you my whole build for relay mode, but before we start, don't forget to leave a like, share and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Also, I know that there are still people who are having troubles with normal mode, and while we have the ladder and we can check exactly which are the top builds, I know that most players don't have those limited supporters and maybe they don't have the right equipment or characters. So what I decided to do is that I'm going to be helping you out, guys. And what you just need to do is to let me know in the comments what team you want to use on normal mode, naming the three characters that you want to use and the colors that you want to use for each character. So maybe I can help you out with that. And I'm going to use F2P supporters for any suggestions that you make. I'm gonna do like maybe 5, well, maybe it's gonna be three builds per video because the runs are limited to 3. But anyways, I'm gonna constantly do this as long as there are requests. So if there's any team in particular, any character that you want to use, and you don't have the Kana Blade for Spinel, you don't have the Eye of Dawn for Shizuru, but you have other good equipment and you want to use those characters, let me know in the comments and maybe I can help you out with those builds. So, anyways, let's get to the builds. Unfortunately, it would take hours if I did the whole run for each one. So I'm just going to show you the builds and I'm going to explain how they work. I'm not going to show you the run itself, but it doesn't really matter. The only thing that you need to know is that you need sustain and damage reduction so that you are able to survive and heal and deal as much damage as possible. So you want your characters as strong as possible. So let me show you the teams. No, let's start with the supporters. So for the first one, we have Shiranui. I'm going to show the build over this tab because it is really easy to see the whole thing. So here we have Shiranui. Since we are gonna fight Edwin and his demon, I'm gonna be using the same Magatamas. All of them are gonna be anti-demon. You can check the element over here. This is water. So whichever element is fine as long as you have the right anti-trait on the Magatamas. So why do I use Shiranui? Because she has the Arachne Scepter, which increases her damage and reduces damage taken from demon type characters. So I want her on a pretty aggressive team. That's why I'm using her on this one. You can also use the SR weapon with her. It is pretty good. So that also has anti-demon. Just it's the damage increase, not damage reduction. So it is still pretty good. I am using the Phantom Shiranui to increase the damage of the whole party because I'm using a human team. And I'm also using Asusa. Asusa isn't the best supporter that I could equip here, but it enhances a little bit the damage of the whole team, so it works. Because the Edwin doesn't have that much damage reduction, so you don't need that much penetration to begin with, but it's still useful. Then I have Onigumo, and that increases damage pretty easily. And I use Rondo, Genejin, and Genesekai. Genesekai, if I'm not mistaken, is the counter, and that I use because the AI is going to constantly put herself at risk, and I just heal myself. Also, I just counter and gain an attack buff. And Rondo is enhanced by the weapon, that's why I use Rondo. Kasaguruma. You could use Kasaguruma, yes, but at the same time, particularly against Edwin, it isn't the best idea because Edwin moves a lot and Kasaguruma locks you in place. So perhaps avoid using Kasaguruma. Then, this supporter is going to heal you also. It is pretty useful. And the damage increase to the whole party is pretty nice. That's why I have it on the main slot. Then, for Tokiko. Tokiko, super useful supporter, you know it. So, nope, not this one. Huh. Did I change it? Perhaps I did. Yeah, I did. Now I remember. Like, you can use Tokiko green, sure. That's one thing. But I'm using Tokiko Blue to be a little bit more aggressive. Because Tokiko Blue deals a ton of damage. If you want to go green, that's fine. You want to use a build similar to... I don't have a green build for her. Nice. Well, if you want to go green with Tokiko... yeah, there we go. You would use Clairvoyance, Taimanin Air Blast, and Magpipe with any supporters that you want. For example, a good option is to use over here. Lamarck and where is Yachio. Lamarck and Yachio, along with any other green supporter, are going to help you out tremendously. Because that way you're enabling the healer role on Tokiko while she's also a pretty aggressive debuffer, and you use this weapon to further debuff the enemy. While the debuff duration is reduced against Edwin, it's still pretty good, particularly the damage or defense reduction, because it increases your damage output. That's about it. So as I was mentioning, here I'm using her as an attacker, still with this weapon because it's just that useful, even though it deals less damage. Then I use, what's the name? Massacre Kurai to increase damage and also become tankier while having healing. That's the thing, because I don't have a healer per se. This is kind of risky. I have some healing tools in the form of the active of Phantom Shiranui and the passive of Massacre Kurai, but it's like soft healing, so I need to be extremely tanky. Shiranui already gains damage reduction thanks to Rondo, and this Kurai gives damage reduction, so that's also a thing. I use these two to increase damage tremendously, so use any supporter that you have to increase damage. And I use Taimanin Air Blast, Clairvoyance, and Squall. Squall to deal damage, Clairvoyance to reduce the defense of the enemy, and Blast to decrease the speed. It is just an attack to gain a little bit more of damage. That's about it. If you want to go, I wouldn't recommend to go with the basic enhancer on Tokiko Blue, because you want to be near the enemy so that you use Squall. Keep that in mind. Then, for Asusa. Asusa is a pretty good damage dealer, we know it. So what is she going to be doing? So we're going to be using supporters that increase your damage, like Yukina, like Barretta, and New Year Shiranui. She's going to be using here the Momochi weapon, but you can use the butterfly weapon or even her character release weapon. That's also pretty good, specifically for this mode. And that's going to increase damage tremendously. Barretta pairs super well with her because she has the innate crit on her passive, so she's going to be able to take advantage of this supporter more than other characters. You don't only need the S level, but not the S level. The S level and the enchantment are not the only thing that allow you to crit, but also the passive, the leader skill. Now, using double team, Gale Slash, and Dragonfly, you're going to be able to increase your damage tremendously. You can change double team Shikigami if you want for what's the name? The dash attack. Shadow Sprint, yeah. So that you gain a damage increase, which is pretty useful. So it depends on what you want, but that's basically it. She's just an attacker. She doesn't have healing, but she's tanky enough. Or well, in my case, she's tanky. In case you do not have enough healing for Asusa, what can you do? You can equip over here. Yeah, you can equip Mai. And with that, they're gonna be tanky enough. They are not tanky enough because your awakening skills are not done yet. Maybe use something like Massacre Kurai should be enough for Tokiko, but for Shiranui you can use the blue one, Akina. I think the name is Akina. Where are you? Where are you? And I don't see her. Nice. Here she is. You can use Akina. She's super, super useful. And you can also use Susune on this one. While it isn't the best thing in the world because of the debuff duration being reduced, it's still a pretty good utility, and the HP recovery is nice. Then I have this team. This is basically the team I use for the normal mode. So we have Shizuru with the Eye of Dawn, which is going to enhance the attack of the whole team using Rose Rondo, Whip Garden, and Whip Shot. And we also have over here Baretta, and we have Dancer Shizuru. Dancer Shizuru is there so that Spinel takes advantage of that buff for a longer time, because she's the main damage dealer and she deals a tremendous amount of damage. So that's why we have this one. Also, it's going to help out with the roses for Spinel. So yeah, the more buffs, the better. And as you can see, the skills. We have Rose Rondo, Witch Shot, and Whip Grit and Whip Shot to reduce the defense of the enemy and increase our damage. If you don't have enough healing, but that depends on the strategy, you can use Sprout Garden. Then, for Spinel, my Spinel relies on Massacre Kunai, which means I don't want healing. That's why I don't have Sprout Garden. But the top players are using the Founding Tree on blue, so that's a thing that you can do. You want to use Kana if possible. Kana is super, super useful with the Spinel. And we have over here Onigumo. Kana Blade, of course. This is the busted weapon that is allowing us to deal the most damage with this character. Demonic Arrow Detonate, Crystal Shard Burst, and Piercing Thirst. All of these give damage increase, so that's a bunch of attack buffs which are going to allow you to deal huge amount of damage with Kana. So yeah, that's what we do with this. And over here, Fantasma. Fantasma is going to be using Ingrid, and you can change this one. You can use Ragnarok, yes, or you can use Kaoru to increase your damage, your critical damage. And I use over here, what's the name? This girl, I forgot. Akina, I think. I don't remember. No, not Akina. Kana. That's the name, Kana. So Kana is going to increase critical damage against bosses and damage against all enemies. So it enhances your damage by a lot. We have the Momochi weapon to take advantage of those crits and increase the damage of the whole party. The skill, the active or the extra passive of the supporter is going to pair perfectly with Fantasma's leader skill, increasing your damage tremendously. We use Clinging Nightmare with Succubus Whisper and Slash Horror. Succubus Whisper to increase the attack of the whole party. So that's what we do with this one. You can use Slash Horror or Dream Claw, but you want one of those so that you get near the enemy, because the AI is not that smart, and you want to be near the enemy to take advantage of this and the leader skill. Then the next one is another demon team. I use a ton of demon teams because I have some of the limited supporters that enhance specific traits like demon. But you are not forced to do these combinations. Keep that in mind. Here I have green Lapis, focusing on crit, as you can see. Since Lapis is she's a mixed attacker-ish, but she likes to go melee. So I'm using the Momochi weapon, a bunch of crit enhancers. This one to enhance the damage of the whole team. And I'm using Gem Spear Shower, Moral Boost, and Gem Support. Moral Boost is going to increase the attack on green, which is very nice. And Gem Support is going to heal the characters. If they don't have enough healing, that's pretty useful. And Gem Spear Shower to deal damage with her, a ton of damage with her. And then for Ingrid. Ingrid is a very lucky character because she has a Christmas weapon. By using the Christmas weapon, she's going to be an excellent damage dealer. And I'm using her red. You could use her blue, yes, sure. But as I mentioned, Edwin moves a lot. And the blue skill needs right timing and positioning. And the red one also needs right timing, but it doesn't suffer as much on the positioning department as the fireball. So we have Spinel to increase the damage of the whole party, then Lina to increase damage against from demons to demons, and also Baretta. The Candy Cane, Piercing Dragon, Evil Heat Blast, and Evil Bloom. Then we have Lina. Lina wants to go blue, no doubt about it. It is just like Spinel, but a little bit different. So, what does Lina do? She's going to be doing the support role-ish, because she has over here Worshipper Lapis, which is going to increase the critical rate of the whole party, and that's why I'm using Baretta on Ingrid, because I have extra critical rate thanks to this one. It also enhances the healing and such. And I have Anne Rose and Onigumo to increase damage. I have the butterfly weapon, but you can change the butterfly weapon for the Momochi weapon. It's also pretty good if you're using Anne Rose and Worshipper Lapis. And I have Blinding Storm, Cherry Blossom Frenzy, and Vanishing. The idea is that you want to have healing and also damage. Vanishing is super important. Don't forget to equip that one. Then, the next one. Astero is another one of the best attackers that you can have. And I'm going blue with her. Just cause. I mean, you can go with any color, but blue is probably the best one, especially if you have Undying Apotheosis, but I don't have it, so I'm using the VR weapon, which is also pretty decent. So I'm using Supernova, Lava Servant, and Phoenix Dive. Issue here. The stage is extremely big, so big that your range attackers might not be hitting the enemy when they are like too far away. So you want to use Phoenix Dive, but at the same time you want to use a basic enhancer. If you the basic, in my case, the basics of Astero do not hit. If you have the 4th slot, use the range basic enhancer, or maybe give up on Lava Servant just to have the extended range. You do want Phoenix Dive so that you get near the enemy and you do not waste time being away from it. Besides, you want to use Supernova near the enemy. That's why we use Phoenix Dive. Normally, I wouldn't use this skill, but we're relying on the AI. So, obviously, Kurai, Onigumo, and Arabella. Pretty simple. Also, try to use mixed Magatamas. That's also pretty good. Maybe double fire, quadruple fire is nice and acceptable, but for the most part, go with double fire, double wind, or double fire, double water. That's going to increase your damage. Then we have Kirara. Kirara is our supporter because she is very good at debuffing the enemy and also dealing damage. We go with a crit build, and I'm using her limited weapon, but you can use Luffy's drop if you want. Snow Leopard Fist is going to be very useful for dealing damage. Then Snow Leopard Sprint to increase damage even further, and Blossoming Fog to reduce the defense of the enemy. It is for a short duration, but it is extremely aggressive, so it is well worth it. If you are not confident, well, I am not confident about her survivability. That's why I have Kana on the main slot. So, is her name Kana? I think it's Kana. Yeah. So, anyways. Also, here I have Oboro. Unfortunately, we know that Red Oboro isn't doing mind control, but even so, I have Carnage Dance to deal damage, Blooming Carnage, and Flash Step. Flash Step is super important so that you are able to position yourself so that you use these 2 skills. If you want to go with blue with Oboro, that's also a pretty good choice. I'm using the what's the name? The SR weapon, because honestly, I don't have the limited weapon at 5 out of 5, I only have one copy, and this one is not maxed out, so I decided to go with this one. We have Spinel to increase the whole party's damage, and the same supporters, you know, Baretta and Lina. I mean, we're gonna repeat a ton of supporters. Most of the supporters that I use are the best damaging options that I have, so it's pretty normal if you repeat supporters. Keep that in mind. Oof. Then I have this wacky assist team, which is not the greatest, but let me show you what it does. So we're gonna start with supporter damage dealer Emily. Why supporter damage dealer? She's going to increase the attack of the party by equipping Sledge of Blessings. I have homing bullets to deal damage, healing field to heal the whole party, and gravity hold to deal damage and heal. Also I have what's the name? Felicia with these two, Anna Rose and Orikubo, to increase damage as much as possible. Then I have Nagi. Nagi's an excellent damage dealer, but she's squishy and she can be interrupted. So Mirage Strike with Centipede and Stormbringing. Centipede is to be next to the enemy. As I mentioned, these kind of skills when using the AI are kind of a little bit more valuable, because if not, the enemy goes away. Then I have this, which is wacky, I won't deny, but it has been serviceable nonetheless. So first of all, I have a bodyguard Nagi, which it doesn't increase the damage, but increases the speed, and that's really good with Stormbringer. Then I have Baretta, and I have this one, I have Melt, which is basically the blue Kana, but on red. That means that you're going to have more damage for the buffs, and this one buffs myself, so that's why I use this. And I also get a buff from, what's the name? Emily. So yeah, that's why I use Melt. Then I have this weapon, which enhances the basics. That's why I use the weapon. And let's go with Francis. So Francis, while Francis could go blue, and also Francis could focus on using this weapon, I do not recommend it. Instead, I'm using a green build, which focuses on just dealing crit so that I can deal the most damage with hit crash. I'm using Raging Shooting and Demon Render, just to deal damage. Do not focus on using Onigoroshi. The thing with that is that it has a long animation and it is not ideal because you waste time and you don't want to waste time. So yeah, we don't use that one. I mean, it's not exactly long animation, but it's long for the damage that it deals and the utility it brings to the table. That's what I mean. Then, this one. This is where the teams start to get wacky and there's less synergies because I just put whatever I could in place. So, here I have Maika. Green Maika, as you can see, critical Maika, Kaoru, Kana, and Suruga, with the weapon, which doesn't really matter, but I mean, she can use the weapon because I'm going green. But it is not like it enhances tremendously the strategy, because the AI is not that smart to begin with. Then, I use Incendiary Round with Pile Flare and Ruthless Explosion. Pile Flare, the dash attack that knocks you back, or I don't know, well, it is just a dash attack to get a little bit near the enemy because, again, the basics, if you see a run of Maika on this mode, she gets too far away from the enemy because she just spams the basics and that's terrible. So Maika is really bad at this mode. Not to mention that she's pretty slow on her animations. Even though she has damage, she is not optimal when used by the AI. Not on this mode, at least. Then we have Elenor. Elenor is going to be using, this. Obviously, since it's a demon and it's fighting against a demon, we use Lina with Yukina and what's the name? Whitefeather Asuka to break the super armor of the enemy so that the enemy stays in place and we can actually land the incendiary rounds of Maika. We use the weapon. The weapon, I mean, it's helpful, especially with what I just said with Maika, because it ensnares, but the shorter duration on debuff makes this not as useful or impactful, so you can substitute the weapon. Reflective Ray, Acid Rain, and Geyser Burst, just like the usual build for proccing Whitefeather Asuka. And lastly, we have over here Saika. Saika. So she's gonna be using Calamity Over with Spinning Kick, and Shadowless Kick. Spinning Kick. Yeah, Spinning Kick to make the enemy groggy, I think. Let's see, Spinning Kick. No, to stun the enemy, because we're gonna break the super armor, so we can do that. That's an option over here. And I have these ones that increase melee damage and critical melee damage, so it's pretty useful. I'm using the limited weapon, but you can use anything that you have at hand, honestly. I wouldn't recommend going on red, but it is there. It is an option in case of an emergency or in case you don't have other builds. Like, let's see. I would go with blue because red doesn't move, and if you miss, that's an issue. But blue moves forward, so that's way better. Let's see. Then we have Aina. Aina is gonna go red. I just equipped this one. You can see that I'm still using not the most optimal things, like Astero over here with Barretta and Yukina. I go with the butterfly weapons, and I use drone shooter, bullet storm, and triple burst to deal the most damage possible. These ones are going to summon drones, but they become laser drones when it's on red. That's why I use them. Then for Rinko, if I'm not mistaken, Rinko should go green so that she's able to debuff the enemy tremendously with I don't. Okay, she's a damage dealer here. You could use Wind Slicer to debuff the enemy, but here I'm using her as a damage dealer. With the combo Violet Slash The Shift, she's going to deal tremendous damage when launching Mugen Hoi. After that, I'm using the Momochi weapon with a critical build, because this gives you an easy activation. Shift gives you an easy activation for Violet Slash, and Violet Slash gives you a hefty critical damage increase buff, so that's why we have those skills over there. And since she's prone to interruptions, she doesn't want to get near the enemy by using Wind Slice. That's the reason why I avoided that skill, but it's useful nonetheless, though the reduced duration diminishes its value. Then here we have Sora. Sora. So I am using a human team, so I'm using Phantom Shiranui to increase the damage of the whole party. But if you want to put maybe, I don't know, Whitefeather Asuka over here, that's also not a bad idea. I'm using, what's the name? Nino, and I'm using White Knight Asagi with the anti-demon weapon, SR weapon, using Celestial Fox, the Taimanin art to the basic enhancer, and Shosen, because this is a triple colors build, and we know that Celestial Fox is one of the most busted skills for Sora. While most characters like to go pure colors, Sora likes to go rainbow. So then the next one, Natsu. The Natsu that I was using before the limited pack, and probably will still use. The critical Natsu. So we use the SR weapon because it gives you a tremendous damage increase. And just by equipping Suruga, basically you have guaranteed crits, so it is pretty good. We use Restoration Smoke, Thunderclap, and Shattering Blow. But you can change that to Shadow Blink and Power Release if you have other sources of healing. I don't in this specific team, that's why I use it this way. Then I have over here Worshipper Lapis with Anna Rose and what's the name? Arabella. Yeah, Arabella. I'm using the what's the name? Bouquet sword. I don't know the name of this weapon. Let me check. Oof, I don't have it. Nice. Well, I'm using her limited sword, the one for the limited set, and that is going to enhance darkness by buffing the whole party. This one, no, wait a moment. Yeah, this one I used in a demon team, so you can change this specific character, but because as you can see, it's now on a human team. But nonetheless, she's a pretty decent supporter because she's going to enhance the critical rate and critical damage by using darkness when equipped with this sword. So that's the thing. I use the Barber for healing and Yangshan Bound to increase my critical and damage and stuff. Then Sakura, what color did I go with Sakura? I guess green? Blue or green are the options. So obviously we use the Phantom Shiranui with what's the name? Asusa and Onigumo with the Momochi weapon, Shadow Spin, Shadow Phantom, and Shadow Cleave. So Cleave is probably the best skill over here because it locks you next to the enemy and you deal a ton of damage. Spin is for the healing, and Phantom, because you're going to be next to the enemy, you might as well summon a Phantom. That's why. Besides, Fling takes a long animation and it debuffs the enemy, and there's debuff duration reduced. The same can be said about Shadow Tangle. It has a debuff and it doesn't last. So that's why I use the Phantom. Then Shisui. So Shisui is going to use Asuka. Why? Because she fulfills both traits and she deals a ton of damage. Her own supporter and also mine. And I'm using Light Explosion, Tag Team, and Arrow of Light. Tag Team to take advantage of the Super Armor Break trait or ability, because this has multiple hits. These skills have multiple hits, so it's a way to deal damage while doing Armor Break. Then we have Asuka. Asuka's gonna go on green. She wants to use this weapon in particular. I use the limited gun for the Guardian, for Shisui. This one, Asuka wants to use a critical build with this weapon to enhance mag impact and deal a tremendous amount of damage. You also want to use Kill 'em all missiles to increase your damage by debuffing the enemy. And Wind Slicer, just cause it's easy and it has a good range. You could change it for something else, but she doesn't have that many options. So it is kind of the best that I can think of. Then we have Hebiko, Blue Hebiko, because only with this she can deal some decent amount of damage for this mode. Then I have Felicia, Massacre Kurai, and Onigumo with the limited weapon, using Octopus Windmill, Octopus Serve, and Octopus Field. Octopus Field is going to deal a pretty good amount of damage and good amount of multi-hit, but there's few instances where you're going to use it because we're breaking the super armor with Shisui, keep that in mind. But Octopus Windmill likes to take advantage of that stun when we break the super armor. So yeah, pretty good. Then for the last three teams, we have Felicia over here. I'm using Felicia on red, which is not a great idea, but I have a demon team. That's why I use her on red particularly, because she's kind of one that got left out, but I would recommend going green instead of red. So what do I do with this one? Obviously Spinel, Lina, Baretta. Vampiric Zone to gain critical rate, the basic enhancer because it's super busted, and Orochinagi to deal a ton of damage with Baretta and with the critical rate buff from Vampiric Zone. Then we have Kurai, which is using Storm Zone, God's Eye, and Stormfang. And no, this is not it. She's using Howling Wind, God's Eye, and Stormfang while using critical supporters, and also using the Halloween weapon, you know, because that also increases critical damage. It is pretty useful, pretty FTP for the most part, so be sure to use this one. You could go with other colors, but Stormfang reduces the enemy's speed. I mean, you could go with blue, yes, sure. But I wanted to deal more damage with this skill. So that's why. Besides, we know that the debuffs don't last that much. So it doesn't matter that I'm not using the defense reduction. Then I have over here Noah. Noah, of course, is going to be using... let's hope that it doesn't disconnect me. Maybe it will. Maybe it will. Oh. Okay. Nice. And we're back. So let's check Noah. So Noah is going to be using Lapis to increase the critical rate of the whole party because we're using a demon team, and Felicia really wants that extra critical rate, along with New Year Felicia and Onigumo, because those two are going to increase damage tremendously. For skills we have Edgar's Enigma, Robert's Revenge, and Marauding Mandy. Marauding Mandy is just a damaging skill, while the other two are going to be utility for you to have healing overall. And we use the Mr. Wonderbird, but it is just a whatever weapon. You can equip something else if you want. In fact, if you want to go with other color, perhaps you want to equip this one, or even this one. This one is going to increase the damage against demons, which is nice, and reduce damage taken. And this one gives you healing, so that's good. For Sue has New Year Shiranui with Yukina and Stella using the anti-demon weapon, SR weapon. Shurenka to deal damage. Sendenka, if I'm not mistaken, that's to increase damage because it's a buff. Yeah, no. Ryorinkoku to gain super armor and not get interrupted, and also gaining more damage. And Sendenka to gain another attack buff and get next to the enemy. That's super important. Then Rin. So for Rin, we're gonna use what's the name? Kung Fu Mai with Nagi. Nagi is going to reduce damage taken. Kung Fu Mai is going to allow us to heal. And all of these also, all the three supporters give damage increase. So while we become tanky, we also deal damage. We have Denki to increase the attack, because on Reddit does that. Volt Whip to deal a lot of damage. And the basic enhancer so that we don't get interrupted, because she's prone to interruption and we don't want that. And then Murasaki. Oof. Murasaki. This Murasaki is not working, just so that you know, guys. Because the AI is not using Setsuga. I don't know why. I mean, I guess it just doesn't work. The AI is too dumb to use it. So, theoretically, this should rely on not using the counter. The counter is always going to heal you, but it's a counter and you may lose time. So, you don't want to use that kind of a skill. You don't want to use a counter to heal. You could go with green, but since the main, the triple color skill is a debuff and the debuffs last less, we don't want to use it. So I decided to go blue. So using Senpu and Tentacle Anchor, you're going to deal a lot of damage. Anchor puts you next to the enemy, Senpu deals damage, and Setsuga would deal the most damage if the character used this, but whenever I do this, whenever I use this build, the character doesn't use Setsuga for some reason. So maybe if Gremory fixes this, you could use this build. And then I use Rudolph Crusher because, of course, Rudolph Crusher is the best option for this enemy. We have Massacre Kunai because we're not going to heal ourselves. And we also have, what's the name? Onigumo and Anna Rose, Pride Anna Rose. Lastly, we have these two. For these two, I'm using the Butterfly Weapon, White Anna Rose, Felicia, Onigumo, and we go with Kojinka, Munika, and Rakusenka. Honestly, it is kind of not the greatest. Munika, just so that you can get a buff, so that you always land your crit with this one and you deal the most damage. Muika, and Munika we could use, but it isn't the greatest. If you want to use it, it's fine. The duration is good enough, so you might as well change Kojinka for Munika. But it's up to you guys. I decided to get a little bit of control instead. Then, for Yukikase. Yukikase is using a critical build, obviously, with a Butterfly Weapon. And we use, let me just, do I have the same? No, I don't. So, we're using here Hiraiten for the mobility. Honestly, that's all that this skill is offering. Ryun, because it deals good hits and it allows her to survive, mostly. And Ryudan. Again, these skills are not that great. Ryudan, the ball kind of thing, because the enemy, Edwin in particular, moves a lot and you might just miss the target. So, yeah. But it's what we have and what I managed to do. Honestly, she's probably one of the worst characters. Yuki is one of the worst characters to fight against Edwin, because her AoEs are like straight lines that attack in front and Edwin moves a lot. So yeah, maybe you want to use a Spark, maybe, or Rakurai or Spark might be a good idea. But this is what I got, and well, what do you think about it, guys? You're gonna notice, or you may have noticed, that I use the same weapons. I have to unequip them. For example, where is she? Here. Aina is going to use the same weapons because these are the ones that I have with the most S levels and enchantment levels. So you're always going to need to unequip them. You never want to do the if I put retry, you don't want to do challenge consecutively. No. You want to do them individually. You do the run, and maybe if you want to hit a certain threshold, a certain mark, you want to retry individual runs. If you see, no, this is not the best run that could be, and you really need it so that you get your medal coins, maybe you want to reset. So keep an eye on that whenever it's necessary. Remember to use your ultimates, or well, skip your ultimates animation. That's like the most effective thing that you can do here. And let me know in the comments if you find this useful, and let me know in the comments what kind of characters you want to use, what teams you want to use on normal mode, and I'll be doing some videos for you. Let me know the characters and the colors that you want to use, and I'll try to go as F2P as possible. So, that's about it for today. I hope you find this useful, and I'll be seeing you next time. Bye!